Hey everyone, my name's Simone, and I'm an artist. And if you can't tell from the title of this video, I am going to be discussing my journey with burnout and or artist block. As I go through my journey in this video, I also have some art pieces or illustrations that I'm going to be showing you guys that I've been working on for a mental health project. So let's go ahead and jump into our little conversation about artist block and or burnout. And if you suffer from any of these things, let me know in the comments down below. Have you overcome them? Are you still dealing with it? Do you have any tips or tricks on how to deal with it? I'm here to just kind of share my journey and how I am overcoming it slowly. It's taken me a long time, so here it is. And in this particular art piece, we are going to introduce you to Tristan. He is our little sleepy toad, and I created Tristan from the top of my head without really looking at much inspiration. Which I normally do is look at inspiration from other artists on Pinterest, on Google. But Tristan just kind of popped into my head because I realized that I actually really love frogs and toads. They're very cute, interesting creatures to me. And then I thought about my journey as an artist and why I've struggled with my creativity for so many years after college. My journey through creative blocks or artist block started a little bit after college. In college, I felt so motivated. I had this future ahead of me as a successful artist. I had an image in my head of the type of artist I wanted to be, the things I wanted to work on. And I had so many different types of sketchbooks that I was working on all at the same time when I was in college. I even saw some of my art teachers and the work that they were doing and the jobs that they had. And I just had a lot of inspiration surrounding me, and also having like-minded people surrounding me, like my classmates who are now my best friends till this day. And this was probably maybe about over 10 years ago, I would say. So it's been a long time, but during those 4 years of getting my degree in animation, I definitely had my ups and downs, but I was so motivated to become a successful artist. A little bit after college, sometime in, I would say 2017, 2016, 2017, I had gone through some changes in my life. I got into a relationship. I met the love of my life, who I'm now engaged to. I ended up moving to another city further away from where I had been living for 6 years. You know, friends were getting married, having kids. I was trying to look for a stable job while in the middle of moving. I lost my grandfather. Friends came and went. Life was just really changing for me. And in the midst of life happening, I also realized that my artwork was not taking off the way I thought it was supposed to right after college. And mentally and emotionally, I put my all, my heart and my soul into my portfolio, into my artwork. And there were so many people who would tell me like, wow, your artwork is so beautiful. You know, you're amazing. You seem very confident in what you do, and which I am. But there was just a point in time after college where I had to face a really harsh reality at some point. And it was actually really painful for me to face the fact that becoming a professional artist is not as easy or as straightforward as some people made it out to be for me back in those days when I was still in college. You know, it just seemed like becoming a professional artist was like this dream state or this dream experience that I was so dead set on. But then reality just kind of hits you like a bus, you know. And I'm not trying to, but it was a point in my life where I really had to face a lot of facts about myself as an individual. And I also had to face my own creativity. And I think at some point, I also kind of hated drawing. I hated that I was just so unsuccessful. At least that's how I saw myself at the time. So I completely gave up. I wrestled with opening my own business. I wrestled with becoming a children's book illustrator. I've designed logos for people, people on YouTube. And there were a lot of different people who reached out to me saying that, I want your artwork for my business. But I just felt so unfulfilled, and mentally and emotionally, I just kind of felt that my artwork was no longer a part of me. It was more a part of someone else's dream, which again, not a bad thing. I think it's great to be a freelance artist. I think it's great to create different works of art for other people and their goals and aspirations. I think it's definitely a compliment when someone wants to actually invest in your artwork. But for me, I had this image in my mind about what type of artist I was supposed to become professionally, and that is not what I became at that time. And till this day, right now I'm just kind of focused on healing my mental burnout, I guess. And the burnout that I've experienced throughout the years has also really, really deeply affected my creativity. That was when I decided, in the last year or so, I would say the last year or so, I decided to create my online small business of Euphoric Garden. And there's still a lot of fear surrounding what I will become as an artist, but I've learned that you just have to stay committed. And the way I started to work on overcoming my artist block and my fear of success is just realizing that that's just what it was. It was just fear of failure, and facing the fact that I did feel like a failure because I wasn't this professional artist making a bunch of sales and working for these big companies, whether it be a gaming company or an animation company. I wasn't being, called to work at some of these big studios out there. And the thing is like, I live in California as well. So like, there's a bunch of studios here that, I've applied to in the past, and I just received nothing, no response, but it was only rejection. And I think over time, the rejection took a toll on me. And I took that as a tool to kind of beat myself up and, beat myself down mentally and even spiritually. And so there did come a point in time where I did decide to let it go. I made it up in my mind that maybe this artsy, artistic animation illustration thing was just not for me anymore. And that's why it's not working out, is because it's not for me. But luckily, I have people in my life who really see the potential in my creativity, and they have never given up on me. My partner, my fiance, he's never given up on me and has always reminded me of how much he admires my artwork and my creativity. And without these people in my life, my friends, my family, and my significant other reminding me of how hard I've worked and my dreams, my goals and aspirations, and how supportive they are even up until now, it's just kind of kept me going. It's been a really rough journey. And when you're dealing with life and reality, especially when you suffer from anxiety like me and ADHD, there's a lot of things in life that can cause you to just kind of lose sight of why you picked up a certain skill or talent in the first place. And I think when I first started art school or went to college for animation, I never really thought about why I went to art school. I actually had a good friend of mine in the past. She saw my artwork one time and she's like, "You should go to school for that." And I was like, I was actually not even thinking about that. That never crossed my mind for some reason. And I was going to community college at the time, and I was taking foreign language. And one of my friends saw something that I had sketched, and she was like, why don't you just apply for art school? This is amazing. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And, it was funny. We actually walked up to this little booth on our campus at the time in community college. And she was like, just sign up for this school. And I signed up and I ended up getting accepted. And then it all took off from there. And, everything just felt so inspirational and so possible until after college. So it wasn't until last year that I finally figured out why I create artwork. And when I was going to art school, I guess the reason why I wanted to become an artist professionally, I think I wanted to become an artist for the wrong reasons. For me, it was more about, at that time, it was more about me making a bunch of money and becoming a professional artist, and people seeing the work that I do and appreciating it as much as I appreciate my artwork. It was more about what other people would see me as after college, right? With this beautiful, amazing, explosive career. But then, as I would say about a decade, maybe a decade or less had gone by, maybe like 8 years has gone by, and I finally came to terms with the real reason why I became an artist. And the reason why is because it makes me feel happy. I love drawing. I love painting. I love creating new characters. I love getting lost in my own stories that I have in my head and putting a face on that story. And it also helps me with my mental health. When I have anxiety or, feel like I'm having like an emotional meltdown, I can just go to my computer or go to a sketchbook or pick up a paintbrush and just paint or draw and create something from my own imagination. And that's why I do what I do. I realized for so many years, this is why I've loved animation. I've loved illustration and character design, because it really does move me in such an amazing and deep way. And I want to continue to contribute to that world of creativity out there and to the artistic community. And I think lastly, when we talk about burnout, I also realized that there's so much information out there. There's so much inspiration. There's so many artists, so many photos of different pieces of art, illustrations. There's Pinterest, there's Google, there's Instagram, there's TikTok, there's Twitch. There's so many different avenues and resources and sources of information out there nowadays that it can just be so overwhelming sometimes. And I think because I had kind of an unhealthy relationship with social media, even back when I was in college, I pulled a lot of my inspiration from photos and real life and animals and plants and things like that, which was great. But trying to understand different styles that are out there for character design and illustration, there is a lot out there. And it took me a very long time to kind of pull myself away from social media and away from what everybody else may have been doing artistically and trying to follow a trend or what have you. I don't know exactly why, or like if it was just one thing that caused my burnout or just like a conglomerate or like a multitude of things. But I know for sure that there was just so much information out there that I kind of felt like I lost my creativity a little bit. And I did not want to be an artist that was mimicking or pulling from what another artist was doing. I believe in supporting all artists and their original work. I believe in being inspired by their work for sure and utilizing certain tips and tricks that they may have in creating their artwork. But at the same time, I also want to make sure that I'm sticking to my own originality as an artist as well, because I think that that's very important. But after pulling myself away for a while and really focusing on my own mental health and grounding myself in where I am and where I was in the past 5 years, really helped me see where I was, to come to terms with where I was, and to be happy and to create a happy environment and just a healthy environment, a happy environment for my mind. Because when you have a cluttered mind, or at least for me, having a cluttered mind or a wounded mind or a traumatized brain in some way, shape, or form, you kind of fall into that mindset, that wounded mindset, and you kind of lose sight of where you are. And so mental health for me really pushed me forward towards my true happiness, just as an individual, but also as an artist, going to therapy, doing my own research, and realizing that as an artist, and I'm sure many of us out there have dealt with this, as artists, we need freedom to express ourselves as authentically as we can. You know, we should be given the space to be as colorful as we want to be, as loud as we want to be. And I was focused on perfection, and perfection is an enemy to creativity. It's the enemy to the imagination. Yeah, it's been a long journey, guys, and hopefully me sharing my story in some way has encouraged you to face yourselves, to face your creativity, the wins, the failures, the setbacks, the shortcomings, your achievements, or the losses. Just because you may lose or fail does not mean that your story has ended. It doesn't mean that your passions and your dreams have fallen off completely. You just have to go and find it. You know, if you've kind of fallen off, or you feel like your goals, you've kind of lost sight of your goals, you just kind of have to go back and find it, kind of trace your steps a little bit and make some improvements as you venture back out. We're only humans, and striving for perfection is just such an empty place to be. Perfection. And that was just my own personal learning experience when it came to perfectionism. And I also have OCD a little bit, so it's been a really long journey. So I really hope that everyone is doing as best they can out there. If you're a creative in any way, a writer, a designer, an illustrator, a musician, a singer, a fashion designer, an architect, whatever it is out there, whoever you are out there, if you're of the creative sort, just know that you're not alone if you are having these struggles. And also, if you are a bit neurospicy like I am, also understand that you're not alone there either, and that you are just as colorful and just as amazing, just as talented as the next person out there who is doing their best. So don't take your failures as indicators of your life ending, or your career ending, or your dream ending. To me, what I've learned, that was just only the beginning of it all. And usually when you start to fail and the bad times start to happen, usually that just means that there's something that needs to be changed. There's something that we have to realize about ourselves on a deeper level. And yeah, so I really hope that you guys enjoy this artwork. If you guys would like to follow me on Twitch to see my live streams for this mental health project that I am creating for everyone to be a part of, please follow me on my Twitch. I also have a Discord. Links will be in the description box below. But if you guys just like it here, please feel free to subscribe and like, because we have cozy times here. And you guys have a wonderful, beautiful, magical, and sparkly day. Bye, guys.